you have all the information too. Because you could go online and get all the information that you need for this course. So it used to be that you went to school and you paid the big bucks to get a University of Education because I was the only person that had the information that you needed to get the degree. Now you can go to YouTube, you can look at my videos if you want, or you could look at anybody else's videos. You can look at the free OpenStax textbooks and study them instead of paying for textbooks. You can go through Coursera or any one of the online degrees. So I'm hoping to impress upon you that the reason that I love teaching is to help everybody make connections with the information. It's not just about me regurgitating information at you and you recording it and memorizing it and writing it down on some test later. My hope is, and my goal is, that we get you involved in the material and practicing the material in class. So what you can do to make the most out of the money you're paying to go to school is to make use of my ability to maybe help the material relevant to each of you, to figure out how it's meaningful to your life and to help you engage in the material, not just to give you facts and data and information. So I have been a geneticist since I was an undergraduate, and I started doing research in my laboratory, not my laboratory, my professor's laboratory. That was in the 90s at some point. So I've been doing this for a couple of decades, and that's basically why those of us that are professors get hired to teach classes. Not all of my colleagues agree with me, but I don't think it's for me just to spout facts at you and write on the board and have you memorize it. It's to try to help you best understand the material. By a little bit more background of me, part of my job as a geneticist is to help people understand, again, the relationships between genetics and society. You may have seen a lot of advertisements about, pay us $100, spit in a tube, send us your DNA, and we'll tell you about your ancestry. And I did this with a couple of tests last year, and those of you in the back even, can you tell what ancestry I might be just based on how I look? No? European, yeah, pretty likely. And that's what this genetics and ancestry test said. It was, I'm 100% European, mostly Scandinavian, some British Isles, and maybe I get down into a little bit of Eastern European. So I'm pretty purebred, unfortunately. My genetic makeup is essentially European, and I already knew that. I was just testing the testing company. I wanted to know if they got it right or not. So I have some genealogists in my family, and they already know where my lineage comes from. So this is one example of trying to make genetics relevant. We'll talk a lot about real data, not just made up problems that I devise by myself while I'm sitting in my office for you to take tests on. I'm interested in having you access, because we've got tablet computers or laptops or smartphones, but hopefully everybody has their tablet. We have all tablets in the classroom, so I can help you with some authentic practices using the internet and databases and tools that are available on the web to do genetic analyses. It's not all just going to be paper and pencil, me making up problems and giving them to you. So I'm trying to impress upon you this class is going to be very different than any class you've taken, ever. It's hopefully in good ways, but things are going to be different. Oh goodness, let's see, this slide reminds me that I've been talking up here now for about 8 minutes, and yes, professors are trained to profess. We're trained to talk. And it's really difficult for me and for my colleagues to let go and let you become the experts and to let you drive the conversation. That's where I'd hope to head this semester. Right? As I say up here, lecturing is great for faculty because we're in control and we're not exposed to anything that's scary or questions that we might not know the answers to. But that's the magical spot where you start to learn and you start to make connections, is when you challenge the faculty members with questions that we don't understand. That's when we can help model learning. What happens when I get confronted with a challenge that I don't know how to answer? That's when faculty in the classroom maybe are best suited to teach you what we know as practicing scientists, how we go about solving problems. Fortunately, the art of lecturing is dying, and as I said, that's mostly because colleges now are maybe going to become, and universities, passe, because you can go online and get educations for less money. What we're going to spend time doing in class, as you may have already guessed, based on the fact that I asked you to read the syllabus before class and to watch a video before coming to class, is that we're going to spend our in-class time doing more active learning, exercises, question and answer, problem solving, than me lecturing to you for 50 minutes and then asking you to do homework afterwards. That's mainly because of this study by Poe, Swenson, and Picard in 2010. They're engineers, and they developed a wristband that was a wearable, it's got electrodes in it. And these electrodes measure, as it says up here, emotion, cognition, and engagement. So they put this on a bunch of volunteers, and they recorded, again, with this EDA sensor, emotion, cognition, and attention, as these people went through normal days in their lives. And I apologize, it's a little bit blurry. But you can sort of see, when are people most attentive or most engaged? What are they doing during those times of those days? Sleep. That's kind of, maybe they're dreaming. Hopefully that's the case. Or either that or it's like me, because I'm always tossing and turning and waking up and thinking about things. When are they disengaged? When is there a flat line in the mental picture? Class and TV. Nothing. That's not in an active learning classroom. That's in a lecture class where you're passive, you're sitting there. Your brain may or may not be switched on, but all you're doing is listening. Maybe you're taking notes. Maybe you're thinking about, how does this apply to my life? Or, hey, I don't understand that. Maybe I should ask a question. And then you start sweating because you're thinking, oh, I'm going to ask a question in front of everybody. This is why we do in-class active learning. That's why one of the reasons we have tablets is I'm going to engage the tablets so that I can have digital conversations with as many of you as possible during class and get feedback from you. And it turns out that this sort of active learning, when you're not just sitting there listening to me talk, as I am, actually does improve student grades. And this is not necessarily for this class or for Fresno State, but in general, scientists have found that when you look at grade distributions in a lecture class, that's this top color here, some pretty sizable percentage of students fail the class. But when you have an active learning lecture class, then basically no students fail. So not surprisingly, practicing the material helps you remember the material, helps you understand how to take exams. That's the plan. Anybody have any questions about any of this at this point? I love answering questions. Again, that's the point, is for you to come to class every day with questions about the video you watch to prepare yourself for class and the material you read to prepare for class. That's the only way this process is going to work, is if you come prepared to ask me questions and say, I didn't understand this thing. Then we can talk about that and work through it in class.